Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're continuing our focus on Ogun Investment Forum for 2014, and we're coming to you live from Abeokuta, actually, venue of that forum. We're joined now by Ronke Sokefun, who is a commissioner for agriculture in the state. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah, but it's focused on agriculture and urban development.
Correct.
Why agriculture in the first place?
2 years ago, we had a forum which featured essentially our 5 cardinal programs. Essentially was to set the tone for the administration, of course having come up with those 5 cardinal programs. In the course of 2 years, naturally we've been able to look at where we are in terms of those programs, and as politicians you always look out for your quick wins. And what are your quick wins? Once you can create wealth for your people, once you can generate employment, you will be riding high. We do realize that agriculture has the potential to create a lot of employment and, of course, wealth for our people. And also, there is a housing deficit. I mean, this is no cliche. And we do know that our proximity to Lagos positions us perfectly, again, to attract more people into the housing sector in the state. So that's what informed the choice of the theme for the current year.
Well, when you speak about agriculture, of course, we do know land is key.
Absolutely.
But tell us about this. Is it really true that there's this 80% discount for the purchase of land in the States for industrial and agricultural purposes?
I won't say it was. 2 years ago when we had the forum, His Excellency unveiled this, what I would label like a short term. Again, it was to attract a lot of people into the state. We had these incentives to bring them over. And yes, it was 80% discount at the time. That offer expired 31st December 2012. But having said that, agricultural land we do not sell outright. What we do is we lease. So it's a leasehold. So what you pay is almost next to nothing. You pay like 1,000 naira per hectare, and that's the premium. 1,000 naira per hectare. That's how much we charge. The only bit of it that sounds a little like you're paying some real money is if we give you land, for instance, where villagers are already farming, okay, because they already have economic crops there, we do evaluation of those and ask that you compensate those communities. That's about it. But in terms of absolute costing, what we charge is 1,000 naira per hectare.
Is the state doing anything? Because agriculture, yes, you may have people who want to come into it.
Correct.
But access to credit is crucial.
Yes.
Any connection, anything being done about that?
Outside what we are doing with the federal government in terms of, I mean, then it was called CACs, Commercial Agricultural Credit Facilities. And then now we have what we call the naira, which is a disbursement through the Central Bank of Nigeria. Central Bank, it's a packaging between the Central Bank of Nigeria and the federal government. So ultimately, whatever the interest on the loan is, the state only bears a portion of it, which is 50%. And that's disbursed through the commercial banks, like I said. The only challenge you have is, again, in terms of documentation and all. So you must be able, as a state government, to stand in the gap, as it were, to be the guarantor, more or less, for the farmers. But again, you cannot do it for individual farmers. They have to be in clusters. They have to be in groups. So we deal mostly with cooperative groups. That's about it. But in terms of the state government itself, putting funds aside, not exactly. We take like $1 billion, 2 or more off the CBN federal government packaging, and then we disburse to our various farmer groups.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask you what's the relationship between what you're doing at the state level and what the federal government is also planning as a master blueprint. And one would think that you will have a wonderful working relationship with the Minister of Agriculture.
Absolutely.
Since,
absolutely.
You know, he's also from your state, I believe.
He is from Ogun State.
Yes.
And the permanent secretary of the ministry is also from Ogun State. He would have been here, but unfortunately for personal reasons, he couldn't be with us because I saw him someday last week. And like you've said, we've had a very good synergy working together. Federal government is a policy maker. That's what they do. Theirs is to facilitate the industry to ensure that it works the way it's supposed to work. But in terms of execution, it's at the state level. As I always say to the minister, you don't have federal farmers. The farmers reside in the various states. Federal government has no land to give to anyone to farm. So whatever policies they have to wait on me to execute. When I say me, I mean commissioners like myself. We key into their programs, we key into their policies, and then we execute. So we are the absolute executors. You'll see the growth enhancement support scheme, for instance. Wonderful idea. Eliminate all these emergency fertilizer sellers, and then ensure that there's a way by which the fertilizers can get to the end users, which are the farmers. Are we there 100%? I would say no. Reason is, in terms of numbers, yes, the fertilizers are still not, they're still inadequate, but it's systemic. In times past, the GS had suffered a lot of hiccups. You find out fertilizers being distributed May, June, by which time, the rains are already fully settled in. But GS is now being rolled out as early as March. So you must give it to the federal government that they keep improving on what they're doing. And like I said, any state government worth its salt, first you must know that you must key into those policies, and secondly, that you must also have your own program that you want to execute ultimately.
I'm looking at your profile here, and I found out that you're a lawyer. I'm just wondering, how did you get into agriculture?
Yes, I'm a lawyer, and I worked in an oil company until Senator Amosu's administration. He asked me to join the team. Found him fascinating. I said yes. So I came in initially to run the Bureau of Lands and Survey as Director General. Of course, it was all about, again, policy changes, policy implementation. If you go back in time, read a lot about Ogun State, you would realize that in terms of processing of land documents, there had always been issues, So what we tried to do was streamline the process and ensure faster turnaround time. Thankfully, again, the gentleman who took over from me, is thinking along the same lines, so we're still more or less executing the same sort of policies. 1.5 years into term, he said to me, I manage you elsewhere. Again, once you join government, you have to realize that you're nimble. You must be able to work in any unit, in any ministry. And that's how I found myself in the Ministry of Agriculture.
Well, you have a follow-up on that?
Yeah, the reason I asked that is, some people will say that people who know, do you find people saying you don't know much about agriculture?
I can
or you say
assure
that
you,
there's nothing to know?
No, I can assure you that that's a constant. When I went into lands, people were like, is she a surveyor? Is she an estate valuer? Is she, all sorts. And you realize that at that level, once you're an administrator, the governor didn't read governance. He's an accountant. So you find out that once you are in government, you're more or less a policymaker, an executor, an administrator. And that's where I found myself.
What I actually wanted to look at is Ogun State is already a hub. That's what you're trying to fix. And it's like in the mix of so many other states. So when you get your produce, you should also be worried about transporting there. By road, by any other means. So if you don't have good road networks, then your farmers
will suffer. Yes.
So what is your government doing about that?
Thankfully, that's one area I will score our administration an A. So I can beat my chest anywhere and say I know we have invested extensively in road construction. If you go around Abeokuta, I think some newspaper once described us as a construction zone. A huge construction. Everywhere you go, what you see is massive road construction that is ongoing. And this is not limited to just the big towns and cities. This goes all the way to the rural areas. We have a 20-kilometer per local government initiative ongoing. And what essentially is that it's to link even the little towns and villages together. One of the key roads His Excellency we're working on at the moment is a 107-kilometer road that links 4 different local governments. Hitherto, the person in the extreme local government D to get to A, we have to go around the entire loop. But what he's saying now is you can cross, I can create a road that can link all these 4 local governments seamlessly. And that is exactly what we're doing. So yes, we're working on road infrastructure, like I said. I can tell you confidently about 60 to 70% of our expenditure is on infrastructure.
Are you also into livestock farming?
Absolutely, yes we are. Currently, we are bringing in a hatchery equipment capable of producing 30,000 day-old chicks per cycle. And you multiply that throughout the year and you get your figures. We are reputed to be the largest poultry industry state in Nigeria.